Hello, hope you're doing well. So I want to talk a little bit about Matthew 8, where Peter's mother-in-law was healed. Now, in the previous video, I wondered, well, why? I figured this is Mary, the mother of Jesus, and why would they word it this way? And so I was having a conversation with somebody about that, and it makes sense. When you put something in writing, it gets traversed throughout wherever it goes. Copies can be made or whatever. And you do not want to increase the fame of a person where it actually causes distraction from the things that are most important. You're not going to identify them by name. So I remember looking at this, and one comment online on a website stated, well, this is nobody really significant. Well, wait a minute. Think about that for a second. If this is Peter's mother-in-law, that's going to be somebody significant. So that doesn't make any sense. So I think what's happening here is the opposite is what's happening. It's somebody that's actually very famous and they're trying to suppress the fame, okay? So if we go to here, Luke 11, chapter 11, 27, 28, and he said these things, the woman in the crowd raised her voice and said to him, "Blessed is the womb that bore you and the breast at which you nursed." But he said, "Blessed rather are those who hear the word of God." Keep it. That's the focus. Okay? It's not about Mary. It's, So that pattern here of being consistent here. So, like I said in the previous video, the fever left her. Now, obviously, Luke, the physician, would have been able to identify the fever here, okay? And she rode and you can find out a fever. You just feel they're warm. They're warm anyway. But anyway, Luke's a physician, okay? And she rode and began to serve him. So it had been somebody who knew Jesus very well at the same age as would be Peter's mom, okay? The mother-in-law, the same age bracket. So the fact that she served right away suggests that it was somebody who knew Jesus very well, as I pointed out in another video. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here, so I believe that the mother-in-law was actually Jesus' mom. You go back to John 2, it all points to, I already made videos on this, it all points to being Peter. And, Peter lived in Capernaum, and it had been Jesus' half-sister Mary, who married Peter. And I already put pieces together based on Acts 12 and 1 Peter 5:13. And let's just go to 1 Peter 5:13 for a second here. I want to point something out that I didn't point out before. So, in verse 12, the previous verse, "By Silvanus, a faithful brother as I regard him, I have written briefly to you." So I believe Silvanus is the one that wrote 1 Peter for Peter. He would have known Greek. Peter did not know Greek. "Exhorting and declaring that this is the true grace of God, stand firm in it." Okay, so faithful brother. Okay, so that is like a spiritual brother. It's very clear. So Peter being very clear that this is not a biological brother, it's a faithful brother. And so when he says, "Mark, my son," it's heavily suggested that was his biological son. Look at the Greek, it said, "Mark, son of me." That did not sound like a spiritual son, it's biological. So, and then you go to Acts 12, and I see why a lot of people get confused and think, well, that can't be his son. No, Luke was just trying to protect Peter by referring to his house as Mary's house, and which is a very common name, and it was done to protect Peter. And two women by the name of Mary were living in that house. It's kind of funny. And of course, Peter would have been gone a lot, fulfilling the mission of Matthew chapter 10, verse 23. So anyway, but the pattern that we see here, um, where the focus is not on Mary, but focusing on the Word of God, the same principle is applying here. It's by not naming her. Again, if Luke is to write Mary, mother of Jesus, the wife of Peter, and he wrote that down, and it gets copied throughout all over the place, they're going to be like trying to visit her and trying to visit the house, and so they had to prevent the fame. So keep in mind, Peter was going through all the cities of Israel, Matthew 10:23, which considered Jews in every nation, Acts 2:5, okay? And so Luke is just trying to exercise wisdom here and try to keep the fame down, okay? Again, there's no way you can say that Peter's mother-in-law, whoever it is not somebody significant, okay? I mean, okay, there's going to be fame there. Peter was fame. I mean, if you go to, again, Acts 10, where, let's see here. Yeah. So here, Cornelius met him, fell down at his feet, and worshipped him. Peter lifted him up, saying, "Stand up, I too am a man." Okay, so here's somebody who fell down and worshipped. Now, it could be that Cornelius just hearing from the Lord about this guy, and he just didn't know what to expect, but he probably just bowed down to him and worshipped him because he probably thought this was the Lord. Who knows? He doesn't really tell him any details why he needs to send out for Simon Peter. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, and likely a widow. Yep, she was a widow. If you go to John 2, Joseph, don't you find it strange that the brothers, Jesus' brothers, were at the wedding, but not Joseph? That heavily suggests by this time Joseph had passed away. And my theory is that probably, just theory, around the time Joseph passed away, it probably when about the time Jesus started ministry. He went and got baptized shortly after that. So that's just a theory. But by the time the wedding took place and the beginning of his ministry, it just seemed odd that Joseph's not there. And so that suggests heavily that that Joseph had passed away by this point. So Mary would have been a widow by this point. So it's just another piece of evidence pointing to Mary. So anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have. So yeah, so the point of this video, I just think that they had to be worried about fame, and the focus is not on Mary or the apostles. The focus is on those who hear the word of God and keep it. That is the focus, the word of God. And don't let the people, such as Mary, be a distraction. Or, unfortunately, the Catholic, they create doctrines around Mary and then call it doctrinal development. And I'm just like, no, it should be a focus on the Word of God. Keep it. You will not see anywhere in the Word of God they're creating doctrines around Mary. Okay. Anyway, well, that's pretty much all I have. So, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. So, I don't get a whole lot of interaction on my channel. So, yeah, there's some theories behind that. So, all right, thank you, and you have an awesome day.